Welcome to this week's edition of the City Beat right here on 610 CHTM. Joining me back in the chair this week after a one-week vacation, Gary Sepatelli filled in quite well for you, Mayor Johnston. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Nice to have you on, and I'll give you just a couple of moments off the top to talk about things you may have done in the past week or the past 2 weeks, since it's been that long since we've had you here in studio.
Well, I can just advise it in terms of city business. It's been relatively quiet in terms of meetings and things like that throughout the summer. A couple reminders, though. Our next regular meeting of council will be on Monday, August 13th, and encourage people to take a look at that agenda. As well, I can advise it over the last couple weeks, as with summer and construction, some of the projects that we're working on are coming through. Cliff Park, we're in the process of doing the sod over this week, and I'm very pleased with that project at Cliff Park. Been by there the last few nights since I've returned to town, and it's being well used in terms of the new playground. Of course, Rotary Park is up and running with the splash park and being extremely well used. So it's good to see those projects coming on to stream, and I can advise that we do have some more capital work that'll begin late, I believe August 20th on Thompson Drive South around the hospital area. So really it's we're into that process of doing much of our work. The other reminder, and we're going to look for the cooperation and the assistance of the public. We do have the Judges for Communities in Bloom in Thompson next week, I believe Tuesday and Wednesday, and encourage people to help us out if there's opportunity to make the city look a little bit better or pick up some garbage. It sure would be appreciated. And one of the things that I was out on the motorcycle last night doing a bit of a tour, and one of the things that I think is a real positive for Community in Bloom is I think it's motivated us to do some things that probably we wouldn't have done on a regular basis in terms of some of the maintenance. So great to see, and again, look forward to the cooperation. So for me, over the last little while, not a lot of meetings. We did have a group in yesterday from Quebec that toured the Glacier test site, and they had nothing but praise. Most of them university personnel and researchers, and very, very impressed. So I continue to see expansion of that facility on the horizon. So good news, but relatively quiet.
677-8181, 677-8181, opening up the phone lines to the Mayor of the City of Thompson, Tim Johnston, 677-8181. Mayor Johnston, I have just a couple of questions for you regarding the empty stables building and DSFM. Word has come out that they're looking to move into that space, and there will be something in front of Mayor and Council on Monday. Just talk about the situation there, where you see that going, and what type of amendments would have to be made should they be able to move into that space.
So a proposal has come forward to the city with respect to that site, and the reason it's at the city stage is that it would require some additional use of land and I believe it's a zoning variation in order to enable that occupation of the building. Obviously, it's in a commercial zone, and I've advised people that if it fit the zoning, it wouldn't be in front of the city. The only reason it's at the city is because of the request for the change in the zoning. So Monday there's going to be first reading of a bylaw with respect to enabling that use in that facility. I look forward again to that discussion to see where it goes. Obviously, from a city perspective, we would see the that facility as a asset and a positive development for the community. I will be honest, I do have some concerns on that specific site. I think that we would have liked to have been able to work and find a different location. As you know, land is a bit of an issue currently. We do have some real opportunities with the new subdivisions coming on over the next year or so. So I look forward to the discussion, but I think we will have to address some of the concerns with respect to that location, and specifically the traffic and things like that.
Some of the concerns may be green space or a place for the children to play outside. Is there anything the city could do, maybe a program where they could go to a park for something like that? Is that something that's all possible, or even in your jurisdiction?
Well, I think that we certainly, through our administration, have had discussions with both the landlord and the proposed tenant, and we're looking at trying to work with those parties because, again, I think that this would be an asset to the community, and we don't necessarily like empty buildings in the downtown area. That being said, you have to make sure that the use that's going into those locations are the right ones, not just for today, but in the long term. And I think we've learned that lesson as a city with some of the conditional uses that we've done in the past that you know might solve an immediate need, but don't necessarily create the opportunity in the long run. So our role is to specifically respond to the request from the proponent, the landlord, and the proposed tenant. Again, we want to work with both those parties to ensure that that facility is in Thompson. We see it as a tremendous asset for our community, and we want to ensure that we can do whatever possible to enable that to take place.
677-8181, 677-8181, taking your questions directly to the Mayor of the City of Thompson, Tim Johnston. Mayor Johnston, in regards to currently vacated space, we have the old grocery store.
Extra Foods?
Extra Foods, thank you. Drawing a blank. It's been so long they've been gone, I already forgot who they were. Any conversations with possible anchor tenants for that space?
I can tell you that we've had extremely positive discussions, again, including the landlord and prospective tenant. Again, these are complicated discussions, and again, the role of the city would be to ensure, one, that we facilitate those discussions wherever possible, and two, that we work with the parties to enable those sorts of developments to take place. I have nothing that I can say is firm or a commitment. We'll continue to have those discussions, and we've looked at Thompson Unlimited to play a coordinating role, and I want to say that all the parties have been extremely cooperative in terms of trying to come to a resolve. I can tell you that over the last number of months, and I think I've said this before, the amount of interest from potential investors, whether that's housing or whether that's retail, commercial, has been very, very strong. And I'm confident that we're going to be able to address some of the challenges that we've had regarding land, regarding the current structure, and the city's been very open. We want to take a look at how do we make it appealing for investment. So we'll continue to have those discussions, and I hope in the near future we'll be able to have some positive announcements.
We're coming to the middle of August. How much longer can Thompsonites expect to have Prairie by law enforcement here in town?
Well, I can tell you that a couple things. We have them under contract leading into the fall. That was approved by council. We've also charged our administration to look at what other options we may have. I can tell you, coming out of the Crime Severity Index announcement a couple weeks ago, I've written a letter to the Minister of Justice stating very clearly that, in my opinion, it's unacceptable that Manitoba it ranks very high in Canada, and the City of Thompson ranks number 1 and number 2, depending on which category. That's unacceptable. And we've asked for the Minister of Justice to take the lead. I can tell you that we've had discussions since that letter was sent regarding the program that we've been looking at in terms of the cadet program. A promise was made by the Premier in the election campaign that there would be a cadet program in rural Manitoba. I understand they've now got the basis of that program, and they're going to be communicating with us. So I think that that was always the model we wanted to pursue. I look forward to those discussions. And but it's clear to me, and I'm very pleased Council made the decision to bring back Prairie Bylaw, because I think it has made a difference at the end of the day, and we'll continue to ensure that we address those behaviors, unacceptable behaviors in the downtown.
677-8181, 677-8181, taking your questions directly to the Mayor of the City of Thompson, Tim Johnston. Mayor Johnston, we have just a couple of minutes left. Overall, with Prairie by law enforcement, the Crime Severity Index, and the policing that we've seen in the downtown core this year, are you pleased with what you've been seeing?
Well, it's interesting. I've been talking to some of my counterparts in the other communities because the other thing that we did is the city has sent a letter to each of the mayors of the communities that were in the top 5 of the 3 different indexes. And I can tell you I've received very positive comments. We've offered to host a meeting of those mayors here in Thompson, likely in September. And as each one of us has said, we don't accept that that's where we rank. It's not acceptable. I accept that that's our ranking. I absolutely do that. But it's unacceptable to continue to be there. We have to take some action. You can't do that in isolation, and you can't do that without looking at the real root causes. And again, I go back to it, and I've said it very clearly. Drugs, gangs, alcohol, domestic violence, we need to address those things, and we need to be realistic about the circumstances that lead to the ranking that we have. It's not good enough to just say, well, that's where we are. We have to understand, and people have to understand what those rankings are and what they're saying, what violent crime is versus what a regular crime stat would be. I can tell you, dealing with the RCMP, our crime stats are moving down. However, in violent crime, we still face a huge challenge, and I think people have to understand what that definition of that is and what the indicators and what the contributing factors are. And I'll go back to it. I think that you have to look at the issues of housing, of poverty, of opportunities, and those are really the things that we have to address. Crime is an outcome. And you can't solve it by necessarily just more police on the streets or this or that. You have to take an approach that is proactive and preventive at the outset. And I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting with my fellow counterparts, mayors, and really being able to come up. I think one of the real positive things that we've done, and no one, I might say, has asked us specifically what are those things that we're doing in crime prevention, and I'd like talking about because we're doing some really good things. We've taken some of the models that Prince Albert has done and been very successful. And so we'll continue to do that because I'm the first to agree. It's unacceptable to see that, and I'm very disappointed to see us ranked. I'm not disappointed that that's not how we should be ranked. I'm disappointed that we're there and we have to take action to fix it.
Very quickly, maybe 20 seconds or less, what are some of the steps you're taking from Prince Albert and bringing here to Thompson that they saw success with?
Well, one of the things that we've done is we've gone to a variety of agencies and said, what and who are you working with, and can we create an opportunity or a strategy to deal with those people instead of dealing with them at the end of the day in terms of some of the social services? What are those things that we can provide at the outset to maybe not stop, but to reduce the amount of need or demand for those social services? PA has been very successful and will continue to. PA, by the way, is also one of the mayors that we've sent a letter to because they also appear in the top 5 of the Crime Severity Index.
Quickly, just closing comments before we wrap up, 30 seconds.
Well, I think that unfortunately, and I've been traveling a fair bit, and everywhere I go, I see end of summer sales and back to school things, and I hate saying that, but it is true that summer will start winding down for us, and I encourage people to get out and enjoy what we have left. Hopefully, it's going to be in August like we had in July in terms of the weather, but it's often one of the best times. We've got our programs up and running. We've got concerts in the park. We've still got the day camps at the recreation department. We've got the wading pools open, and encourage people to get out, get to the lakes, enjoy the summer with their family, and as I've always said, make sure we play safe, but enjoy the summer that we have. It's one of the best parts of living in Thompson.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor Johnston, for joining us once again this week. We'll wrap things up for this week. Join us again next Thursday, 11:30 to quarter to noon, right here on 610 CHTM 4 City Beat with Mayor Tim Johnston.
City Beat will be back next Thursday morning.